like Iron Maiden a lot.
Hey folks, welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock and episode 24 of 50 Years of Iron Maiden. Now this is a two-shot for you this time, as Iron Maiden released two things simultaneously that we are going to cover tonight. Harrison, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. Well, thank you. I am very much looking forward to digging into this neat little box set. The compilation, not so much, but we'll get into that.
Why don't we get that compilation out of the way first? Yes, Iron Maiden released, I guess this would be their second compilation at this point. It is called Edward the Great. The artwork is by somebody named Tom Adams, who I guess is mostly known for Agatha Christie book covers. This is a bit of a jump from Agatha Christie, but there you go. I am not particularly fond of the artwork, but that's just my personal feeling. There's no Iron Maiden logo or title on the actual cover. It is only on the CD spine, as you can see there. This was actually released twice. The first time it came out on the 4th of November 2002. It consists of recordings on the first edition, which is what we see here, from 1982 to 2001. The track listings are from only the Dickinson years onward. There's no Di'Anno on this compilation, which was one of its main weaknesses. But you get the double shot of Run to the Hills and Number of the Beast, followed by Flight of Icarus, The Trooper, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Wasted Years, a 4-shot from Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Can I Play with Madness, The Evil That Men Do, The Clairvoyant, and Infinite Dreams, followed by a 2-shot from No Prayer, Holy Smoke, and Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. Then we have some Blaze with Man on the Edge and Future Real. We have The Wicker Man from Brave New World. And finally, the live version of Fear of the Dark from Rock In Rio, which, as Harrison and I talked about on the last show, is my favorite version of Fear of the Dark. I found that the running order just kind of jumps way too fast. Like 1 minute we're at the Trooper, then 11 minutes later we're at Can I Play with Madness, and then you've got 4 Seventh Son tracks. It's not well balanced. For example, there's too much No Prayer compared to the time spent on Power Slave and Somewhere in Time. And of course, No Di'Anno is a fatal shot, I would say. Now, the album was reissued after Death on the Road. They dropped The Clairvoyant and Infinite Dreams and Holy Smoke. So 3 of my songs that were kind of issues were dropped. They added Brave New World, Wildest Dreams, and Rainmaker, so including Dance of Death material. And they subbed in a new live version of Fear of the Dark from the Death on the Road CD. So a minor upgrade. I'd never bought it, although I guess I technically should buy it for the collection. I haven't really thought about what I want to rate it, but let's go with a 3 out of 5. It is definitely a compilation that I do not listen to often. I listened to it for this show, and I see no reason to listen to it again. Harrison, do you want to add any thoughts on Edward the Great?
Yeah, I don't really bother with single disc Maiden comps because they can just never do the job properly. It's not enough running time to properly capture the best of Iron Maiden. Nevertheless, there are some neat inclusions on here, like Infinite Dreams and Flight of Icarus, both making their only appearances on a Greatest Hits album. No Paul tracks, not even Iron Maiden is shocking and unthinkable. I appreciate that they didn't sub out the Blaze tracks for live versions, but all in all, it's a pretty meh compilation. I think the best thing about it is the art and title concept, because Edward the Great is a phenomenal name for an Iron Maiden Greatest Hits, and they wasted it on this. I couldn't give it any more than a 3 out of 5 stars as well myself.
Okay, so buyer beware, folks. But that's not the main reason you're watching tonight's show. We do want to be complete. We do want to be comprehensive. So we wanted to talk about Edward the Great. But the main reason that you are here tonight is that we are going to look at Eddie's archive. And we're going to do this in some pretty serious detail. We already looked at a few tracks on an earlier show, but tonight we're going to look at everything else. So the archive was released on the 4th of November 2002. It was recorded between 14 November 1979 and 1999. The first issue has a numbered family tree. We will look at the contents in more detail, but this is the archive. This is Eddie's archive right here. And Harrison, I think you have an Eddie's archive as well, do you not?
I do now, and there is a story attached with this. Should we go over it earlier in the show or later in the show?
Why don't we start diving deep into the music, and then we will finish up with a deep dive on everything else that this box set entails, including your tale of piecing together an archive of Theseus, so to speak.
Yes, and just before we get right into the music, I'm just going to say the box design itself was actually designed by Mark Wilkinson, and the original plan was for it to be a wooden box. But when they suggested to that, he suggested going with metal because it was the 25th anniversary and they should allude to a silver jubilee. It's not a silver box because that's expensive. It's tin, but the effect is still there. Made in England. What does mine say on the back? Made in England. Okay.
And L-Space design is Mark Wilkinson. We've seen that on some Judas Priest album covers.
Yeah. Funny, your sticker, your like little Sony sticker is on the bottom. Mine's here on the front.
Interesting. Well, I guess we should take a look at the music inside. Now, I still have my sticker from the back of the box. I cut it out and kept it. This is basically just the running order, but I'll read the blurb here. 6 discs, 77 tracks. Each double disc comes with new artwork and a full-color 24-page booklet. Includes exclusive crystal and pewter Eddie shot glass. We'll show that off later. And it includes a Pete Frame family tree. I'm guessing Pete Frame is the guy who does these family trees. On parchment scroll with an Eddie ring limited edition. And of course, you've got the parental advisory because you can't say naughty words without a parental advisory. Just before we start on the actual CDs, we're going to skip the second album in this collection. It's basically 3 albums, each one a double. We're going to skip Beast over Hammersmith because we did an excellent, fully comprehensive episode on this live album. Check that out in the playlist. Instead, we will cover mostly this disc, and I'll have a couple of comments on the best of the B-sides. But for the most part, it's going to be the BBC archives. So, closing up the box, snagging my Iron Maiden button from my shirt, closing up the box, BBC archives. This is a great compilation. It includes 4 different recordings, or is it 3? 3, I believe. 4. The first set of 4 tracks is BBC Radio 1 Friday Night Rock Show, 14 November 1979, which we covered on our Soundhouse Tapes and More premiere episode. So those tracks, we already covered them. Check out the premiere episode, which you've probably already watched. Then we have the Reading Festival, 1982, 28 August. And finally, Donington, Monsters of Rock. Oh, sorry, there's 2 Reading Festivals. Reading Festival, 23 August 1980, and Donington Monsters of Rock, 20th of August 1988. That's the contents of this 2 CD set. So basically for this episode, we are just going to be talking in detail about the songs that we did not cover on prior episodes. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, so starting off then, we have on disc 1 of the BBC archives, once we get past the BBC Radio, which we already covered, we have the Reading Festival. This is, like I said, 28 August 1982, and we begin with Wrathchild. And I like to make notes of the things that Bruce says during the song intros. And in this one, it's, "Good evening, Reading, how are ya? This is a song called Wrathchild." That's a little bit different from as Bruce would evolve as a frontman later on. But this one has a solid groove with a youthful Bruce in growly glory. Bit off a bit more than I could chew with my words there. Do you want to comment on these tracks, or
For Reading itself, I have nothing to comment specifically, because in general, the versions here are pretty much comparable to the Hammersmith versions. There isn't really anything of note for me to say. I will, while I'm speaking, just say that this is not the full performance from Reading. It was only what was broadcast on the radio, and that trend continues into the other shows on this disc. So this Reading 82 show is actually missing Murders in the Rue Morgue, Running Free, Sanctuary, Drifter, and a cover of ZZ Top's Tush done with Blackfoot as well on stage.
Man, that would be great to have. So take note, folks. This is only what's been officially released and therefore broadcast. I will just rip through the rest of the songs without pausing for Harrison. Next up, we have Run to the Hills, which is early in the set, not yet overplayed, and Bruce is in his, peak voice era, but he's still flat on the chorus even so. Children of the Damned. Bruce says, when we were over in the States, I'll start over. When we were over in the States, there were some very strange goings on with people thinking we're Satanists and corrupting the nation's youth. And of course, it's absolutely true. Then they have the story about somebody getting a letter from the vicar of Huddersfield. Over in America, they have this thing about Satanism and they want to put stickers on our records, Bruce says. Once again, he is in peak voice on this version of Children of the Damned, and it may be, in my opinion, the best vocal version of the song to date. Then we have The Number of the Beast, which is pretty close to album quality, though the solos are a tad buried in this mix. 22 Acacia Avenue. There are 30,000 people there, according to Bruce. And how loud do you think you can scream? He asked them. This is followed by Transylvania, Full Speed Ahead, magnificent version with absolutely burning guitar solos. Murray's solo Wah Wah Blowout was very cool and different compared to what Iron Maiden do now in concert. It's basically a standalone guitar solo by Dave Murray. Then we have The Prisoner. Nice to hear vintage Clive Burr on that trademark drum beat. And Bruce is pretty close on all of the high notes on The Prisoner. After a smooth transition, we go into Hallowed Be Thy Name, again with youthful Bruce singing it just perfectly. Phantom of the Opera, a monstrous and fast version. Clive is frantic and busy, and absolutely mind-blowing drum performance on Phantom of the Opera. And then we close with Iron Maiden, just as fast and energetic as the rest of the set. A great closing. Anything you want to add?
No, just to say that this was Bruce at his stone cold peak vocally, if not as a frontman.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on to Disc 2, we now have the Reading Festival from the 23rd of August, 1980. We're opening with Prowler. And this time, Paul says, we'll have a bit of fun tonight, I hope. Prowler! And it's an absolutely thumping bottom end on this version. Clive is thunderous. And at the 2-minute 43 mark, Davey does this like just extra long trill on the riff. And I just love it. It's so good.
Yeah, this version has the Shaken Baby scream as the solo kicks off from the Soundhouse taped version that was not carried over to the studio version. Now, just about Reading 1980 in general, I haven't heard a bad Di'Anno show with Maiden. I wouldn't even know what that sounded like. This is awesome. So as far as missing tracks go for Reading 1980, it's missing Sanctuary, Wrathchild, Phantom, and Drifter.
Does it say if those were just not broadcast as well?
Yes, when I say missing, I mean not broadcast. So
Gotcha. So again, moving on to what was broadcast and therefore released, we have Remember Tomorrow. Paul asks, is it loud enough for you out there? Apparently it wasn't. This is a very heavy version of Remember Tomorrow, and extra screaming on that word, sky. Anything you want to add?
just to say that I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity that Maiden didn't select the tracks on Maiden Japan with the broadcast in mind, because there is some notable overlap between the tracks on this broadcast and the tracks on Maiden Japan, like Remember Tomorrow, Running Free, and specifically with a different show on this disc, there was some thought given to that.
Okay, fair enough. Track 3 is interesting because it's a bit of a preview of Killers. The lyrics are not all there yet. And Paul introduces it by saying, this next song is about silly little things we used to do as kids anyway. That's a rough translation. It's hard to tell what he's saying. So I
Yeah,
don't.
he says something like that. These are the alternate lyrics, the early version, that starts with "You fight in the street and you make all your claims every night." Paul claims he made these lyrics up 5 minutes before the live at the Rainbow show. However, Rainbow was played in December, and Reading was played in August, so he's got his facts slightly wrong. He was likely thinking of a different show.
I do like this version. There's nice opening harmonics that's a little bit different from other released versions of Killers. It sounds less practiced, less polished. And as we said, the lyrics are not finalized. And there's one line that always jumps out at me because it just sounds awkward. You won't stop us because we have the power with one, or something like that. Just an odd sentence.
Could be the power within, and he's just saying it oddly.
Could be the power within. That would make more sense. Unfortunately, there's no written documentation of this. Moving on to Running Free. The bass drum stomps a bit long on the opening as Paul gets the crowd clapping along with the beat. And then Steve comes in with that bass and Clive with the snare. And off we go. 3 minutes, 53 seconds on Running Free. Anything you
If
want
I'm
to add?
correct, this is Dennis Stratton on guitar here.
Yes, should be.
Yes, so as well on backing vocals, you can see there's a woo in the background at one point where Paul's singing, and there's also I think he yells like "come on" or something near the end while Paul is also saying something.
Somebody is for sure.
Yeah, which I'd have to guess was Dennis because I don't recognize the voice as Steve.
This is why you watch 50 Years of Iron Maiden, folks. Transylvania. Paul asks how many people own the album and jokes that next year he might be able to afford something. It's hard to tell what he's saying. Maybe he's saying he might be able to afford a copy of his own album. It's a very fast version of Transylvania. Excellent version. Any thoughts?
Nothing. I have nothing more to say of note of any of the Reading 80 tracks.
Okay, it ends with Iron Maiden. Paul introduces the band starting with Dennis Stratton. Then Clive, Steve, and Dave Murray, the Blonde Bomber. This version of Iron Maiden maintains that fast pace, similar to the other tracks in the set. And then we have the Donington Monsters of Rock, UK, 20th of August, 1988. What do you want to say about this before we dive into the tracks?
Right. So in general, there is, as I alluded to earlier, there is no overlap between what was broadcast and what was eventually put on the B-sides for a few of the singles and chosen as the live single in The Clairvoyant. So I suspect that the B-sides were probably chosen with the broadcast in mind. That said, the broadcast is still missing a lot, more than half of what was played that night, of which only 22 Acacia Avenue was not on Made in England 88. I mean, this, as we were talking about, 1982 being peak Bruce, 1988 is sort of like the worst that Bruce ever got. So I'm not stressing over missing tracks because vocally this is a pretty lackluster performance, bordering on, I'd say, pretty bad at times, depending on the song.
Well, I fortunately did go track by track and made notes, so let's see if my notes agree, okay? Moonchild, there's the tape opening, and I wrote that Bruce's voice sounds tired by comparison. Wrathchild, it's great to hear them throwing it back to this track, no complaints. They're locked in.
Yes, this is a solid version and a comfortable register that wasn't on Made in England 88.
Yes, and that's why Bruce is able to let it wail a little bit more on this track. We have then Infinite Dreams, which is a new song, and Bruce asks for the audience to clap their hands, which they oblige. Once again, Bruce wails, but you can hear the limits on his voice. You can tell that he's putting in 100%, but what's coming out is not the 100% that we are used to. Then we have The Trooper. Bruce's voice is rough and flat, but the band is fully energized, very high speed compared to the previous two songs. Bruce tends to Bruce tends to compensate vocally for his range by putting in more expression into the words that he's singing.
Yes, but he's still really struggling here. This is one of the tracks that I'd say sounds quite bad, to be honest. along with Hallowed Be Thy Name. The Trooper, however, wasn't on Made in England '88, making it another one of the exclusive ones to this set.
Now, Harrison and I did not trade notes before the show, so what we are saying here is coming from both of us independently. So take that in mind as we lovingly critique this music. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, 10-minute long bomber. Bruce again sounds a bit worn, especially during the section. But he's very expressive and he captures an evil sounding performance. So again, what Bruce is not able to do in terms of range or even power, he is able to compensate in terms of expression and performance. Number of the Beast. The rough vocals continue, but the opening scream is still pretty cool. I wrote that this is actually very dicey vocally, and he does the thing where he sings 6, and he lets the crowd finish with the other 2 6s. Hallowed Be Thy Name, a very solid version, and Bruce screams with grit after he asks Donington to scream for him. And finally, Iron Maiden. Nico does some cool rolls in this version, and the crowd sounds absolutely bonkers through the whole thing, not just when singing that Iron Maiden part. And that's my notes on Donington.
Yeah, so as you probably noticed, on some tracks like Iron Maiden, you will be hearing them 4 times if you listen to this album sort of like in full, one after the other. It's less of like an album that you listen to in full and more of, oh, I want to listen to Reading 1980, or oh, I want to listen to Donington 88, or I want some cool Maiden performances for my mix CD that goes in the car, sort of thing. Regarding exclusivity, most of this stuff is exclusive to the set. However, there are a few songs like The Prisoner and 22 Acacia Avenue that were B-sides. The Prisoner and 22 Acacia from Reading 1982 that were B-sides on some of the reissued singles, the Run to the Hills here from 2002. We will address all these reissued singles. However, we will do them in 2005 because Hills was 2002. Trooper was 2003 and Beast was 2005. So we're not going to do 3 separate episodes. We're going to lump them all in 2005 once Beast has released.
So look for that bonus episode in the coming group of episodes that will be dropping in the weeks to come. The final piece of music that we have in this box set consists of songs that we have all discussed in detail, album by album, because we included all the B-sides. So this is Iron Maiden's Best of the B-sides, with Eddie mooning the viewer here and Maiden Rules written on his bum. Now we have a bonus episode that that I'm re-editing and uploading for rewatch, the Best of Iron Maiden's artwork, and our good friend Aaron from the Keeps Me Alive actually picked Best of the B-sides as one of his favorite Maiden art. Can't agree with him there, but bless him, he did. I don't know what you think, Harrison. I think that this is actually one of Maiden's worst artwork, but what do you think?
Well, Maiden artwork is like, it's either something like really cool and mind blowing, or it's just a dude standing there, like the Killer's artwork. Like Killer's Eddie is one of the coolest Eddies, but his artwork, it's just him standing there, as opposed to say the Virtual 11 artwork, which isn't a very cool Eddie, but it's this very dynamic, awesome looking vista. I like Best of the B-sides a lot because for a lot of these tracks, it's the only place that I own them on because I started collecting later. It doesn't have all of them. Like it says, it's Best of the B-sides. It's missing a lot of live B-sides, unfortunately. And there are a couple of studio tracks, like their cover of Thin Lizzy's Massacre, that are inexplicably left off. Nevertheless, it's still an awesome set. And I really love how in the liner notes you get Rob Smallwood giving a very small like reflection or sort of background on each track as you go through the booklet. And he has kind words to say about Blaze keeping them going.
So that's what it looks like page by page. And you can see the single art from which these B-sides are taken. Now, I don't listen to this very often. I would select my own different collection of B-sides, but there's some noteworthy ones on here. As Harrison said, you get Burning Ambition, which for some reason it just doesn't get released very often. You also get a good selection of those Blaze Bayley tracks, as he mentioned. You get Just of the Peace and Judgment Day, but you do not get I Live My Way, which would have been a really handy way to get that track on CD. As we talked about in the X Factor episodes, you can only get I Live My Way on vinyl and a Japanese album. Then you get a nice selection of live B-sides as well. You get 2 from the Blaze era that Harrison likes, Blood on the World's Hand and the Aftermath. And then you get
I would
2
have loved to get Man on the Edge and The Evil That Men Do from the Future Real single, though. That thing is bloody expensive.
Again, we would have picked our own B-sides for this thing. But you do get a couple of the nice ones from the Wicker Man single with Bruce, Future Real, Wasted Years 99, Future Real and Out of the Silent Planet singles, I believe. But there's some good stuff on here. You get Cross-Eyed Mary, Rainbow's Gold, I've Got the Fire, the studio version of I've Got the Fire with Bruce, Juanita, Sheriff of Huddersfield. You do not get Mission from Airy, but
or Bayswater Ain't a Bad Place to Be.
Or Bayswater Ain't a Bad Place to Be, but you get My Generation and Dr. Doctor. I think That Girl is worth the price of admission. Reach Out with the Adrian Smith lead vocal.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody will have their own, and if you have all the Iron Maiden B-sides already, this is not something you're going to be reaching for and listening to. I find it kind of an odd inclusion in Eddie's archive to have a curated list of select B-sides rather than a complete list of something. It just seems incomplete for something called Eddie's Archive, but that's just my opinion. I would give Best of the B-sides also like a 3 out of 5, I guess. A 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Nevertheless, Rod did say they weren't going to be reissuing the singles ever again, so Best of the B-sides still remains a very good place to get most of those B-sides.
This is true.
And a box set, like if there was ever to be a hypothetical Blaze Bayley live album, it would be in a box set. They'd never sell it.
Correct.
They'd never sell it separately.
Or if they ever did like a super deluxe series of reissues like other bands do. But Maiden have so far resisted doing that.
Yeah, which is a shame. They have put out a lot of compilations over the years where, as we've done Edward the Great, we've done Eddie's Archive, we've done Ed Hunter, but there's still a lot more to come.
There's a lot more to come.
I'm surprised they haven't actually put one out for the 50th anniversary yet.
We shall wait and see. I guess now that we've done all the music, it is time to dive into the contents of the actual box and the packaging. It opens like this, like a disc. There's a metal hinge. This box is nicely printed with all that graphic detail, as you can see.
Some of it raised. In fact, most of it is raised if you run your fingers over it.
It is, yeah, it is basically all raised. You can see that. And that is how the discs fit in when they're in. Now, I don't like this because they do slip around. It's not a perfect design.
They don't?
Mine slip
I haven't had any issue with it. Mine fit in here really snug-like.
Okay. Well, Harrison's fit in there snug-like.
Because there's basically this bit is like stepped so that each disc sort of sits in there.
There's what it looks like empty, but mine do slip around. That is one of my complaints about this set. Having said that, if Harrison's don't slip around, then that is isolated to me in this case. Now, the inner tray here is blue, which means this is a first edition. The second edition was red, which neither of us have.
Yeah. I think red fits as a better color, given that the Iron Maiden logo is in red. But yeah, it is.
But if you get a blue, then you've got the more valuable of the two. As you can see, the shot glass is there and the scroll is here. We'll take a look at those in a moment. But maybe Harrison can walk us through his story of the Archive of Theseus.
Yes, I do have a bit of an Eddie's Archive of Theseus. I'll tell you what exactly. If you don't know what the Ship of Theseus is, I'll tell you at the end. So go back to like 2017, 2018. I'm just starting to collect music. I'm like, I want Beast Over Hammersmith. And it turns out Eddie's Archive was expensive on the secondary market to get a full set. And I didn't have a job. So I went on eBay and I was like, oh, look, there's Eddie's Archive. Sorry, not there's Eddie's Archive. There's Beast Over Hammersmith. Just somebody selling it loose. And I bought that, and I got a pretty damn good deal on it. It was like 35 AUD plus shipping. The jury's still out whether it's official or not, even though it has the different Iron Maiden logo to Mike's. There are versions with this logo, and there are versions without. Weirdly, this doesn't line up, but you know, either way, if it's a bootleg, it's a very damn good bootleg. So yeah. Anyway, so fast forward to like 2022, 2023. I have a job now, which means I have more money. And I decide I want to complete the set. I want BBC Archives and I want Best of the B-Sides. So I go on eBay and I buy them both. Once again, separately listed, separately loose, basically from a box set. They were both from the same seller, but they were separate listings. And this seller had like lots of different copies of these. So who knows if these two are even originally from the same set. So we're up to a potential 3 box sets here that came together to make mine. And then just this year, only a couple months ago, so I'm on eBay scrolling, and there's someone here in Australia selling Eddie's archive for $80, 80 Australian, and I'm just like, well, why are they selling this for so cheap? And I go there, and it's like, it only has Beast Over Hammersmith. It doesn't have any of the 2 discs, and I'm like, done. I'll take that. So I got a second copy of Beast Over Hammersmith, which I gifted to a friend because it was a little more scratched up than my current one, which is in pretty good shape. Sorry, friend, but I'm keeping the better condition one. And so basically I got the tin, the glass, and the family tree. However, even though this is the blue inlay, the family tree I have here inexplicably doesn't have numbering on it, even though this is supposed to be the first edition limited blue box. So it's possible that the tree was from a different set. It's possible this is a bootleg, but I don't know how good Eddie's Archive bootlegs get, and it's got everything in here. Like if this is a bootleg shot glass, they've put a lot of effort into this set. But for whatever reason, like there's a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 box sets that could have come together to make this one set in my house from all over the world. So this is basically the Eddie's Archive of Theseus, and the Ship of Theseus is this philosophical question saying, if you replace every piece of an item, is it still the same thing? So if you replace like the sails, the mast, the wood, the capstan of the Ship of Theseus, is it still the Ship of Theseus, or is it a completely different ship now?
Right. Well said, Harrison. And that's as good a time as any to take a look at my scroll. So you get this pewter ring that holds it. We'll take and by the way, this is the first time I've unrolled this in ages. So here's the pewter ring. See if we can get a good look at Eddie here. You can kind of see it. And let's take a look at the scroll itself.
Oop, sorry.
Oh, that worked. So it's not very easy to unroll.
This family tree was first found in the A Real Live One or A Real Dead One set. It's been slightly expanded since then, but allegedly still carries over some of the typos and mistakes.
There's a nice focus. And let's look for a numbering.
So it should be at the very bottom right.
Now, I bought mine. I pre-ordered mine from Amazon when it first came out. So mine is definitely a first printing. And I don't see any numbering on this. Unless it is K86907-12. There's no other numbering on the bottom.
Yeah, I've seen pictures on Discogs where the bottom right of the family tree is supposed to have a number on it. Maybe that was exclusive to the UK edition. Maybe, I don't know. For whatever reason, neither yours nor mine, despite being, almost certainly official first editions, doesn't have that number on it, which is odd to say the least.
Mine is 100% absolutely certain a first edition. First shipment of the first edition here in Canada. So I cannot account for why there is no number there, but this is 100% a first edition. 100%.
There is a number here on my Sony sticker which says 7692. What does yours say?
660.
Okay, so it's high. Maybe that's where the number is on the set. You got a low one.
Well, I damn sure hope so. I did.
Yeah.
I did pre-order it. That's what I'm guessing is that is the numbering right there on the sticker on the back, 660. It is definitely not a number on the scroll. Definitely not.
Well,
Let's
that
take.
makes me feel better about not having a number on my scroll.
Oh, absolutely. So I think we can possibly reduce the number of box sets that your Eddie's Archive of
To
Theseus
4.
came from. Yeah, I think we can say that it's probably the tray and the pewter and the scroll is all from the same set. Let's take a look at the pewter, the shot glass. Oh, the ring on the scroll is also pewter, but this is the feet of the shot glass. Now, needless to say, people, this is not machine washable. It has never been
There's a
used.
sticker on the bottom saying please hand wash. Or at least on mine there is.
No, there it is. It does say, you can't see it, but it does say please hand wash. Now, I've never used this. I see no reason to. Why would I? It's nice though, and
It's cool.
hopefully you can see inside. You can see Eddie with little gems for eyes, probably plastic gems. But you can see him in the base of your shot glass. So let's say you were drinking some spirits one night and you're too drunk to realize that you're using your Eddie shot glass. You might get a little scare there. I think this is a really nice item. And by the way, it is packed perfectly. You don't have to worry about this breaking. I've had it for over 20 years.
This is cool. Once again, I'm not going to use it, but it's cool.
And there are Eddie heads on the feet. You can see that. And there are 5 Eddie feet. Really nice shot glass.
Yeah, Iron Maiden, when Steve said we could make a lot more money if we didn't package it like this and didn't put all this effort in, but we wanted to do something for the fans.
And I think they did succeed in making something for the fans. As we have griped a little bit, we would have done things slightly different ourselves. Harrison would have included some slightly different B-sides. He might have tried to get a hold of some bootlegs of those non-broadcast tracks. But I think by and large, we are both very happy with our purchases, especially considering that you pieced yours together from something that did not exist into something that now exists.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. It's hard to get a hold of these days. Beast Over Hammersmith only just recently got a vinyl reissue on the 40th anniversary edition of The Number of the Beast. But by and large, what's in here is mostly exclusive to this now more than 20 years out of print box set, unfortunately.
That's right. And as you can see, it is gettable. You can do what Harrison did, and you can piece one together, or you can try to buy one intact.
Yeah.
It's worth getting for these exclusive tracks that we've been talking about in this episode and in some of the prior episodes. It might help you polish off some B-sides in your collection, though I recommend getting the singles if you can. Eddie's Archive.
To get all the singles, though.
Sorry?
A lot more expensive to get all the singles, though.
It is, but you might end up with some serious treasures that way as well. I mean, you've been following the series. You know about these B-sides that we've been talking about and the stuff that is not on this set. But as I said, to complement this episode, we already did in our very first premiere a lot of the 4 of the Diano tracks that are on this box set. We also covered Beast Over Hammersmith in a complete, comprehensive, standalone episode on its own. So you can check those out if you want to see those things in more detail. But as for this box set, regardless of my gripes, and even though my CDs do tend to slip around inside the packaging a little bit, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. You also have to remember that box set standards have changed since 2002. Now we're more used to getting things that are sort of like a complete deluxe 5 CD reissue of a single album. So this is kind of hearkening back to an earlier time when they were giving us a variety of things and not necessarily complete things inside a box set. So, by 2002 standards, it really is a solid purchase. And by today's standards, there's still stuff in here that you want for your collection. So 4.5 out of 5 from me.
I'd give it the full 5. I mean, when you consider 6 discs of Iron Maiden, it's hard to think of a better 6 discs. Minor trifles about certain B-sides aside, I love this box set, and I think it still holds up today if you were to buy it, even though box set standards have changed. I would be very excited for, let's say, an Eddie's Archive 2 if they ever did one with, say, the rest of the B-sides, including some of the B-sides that released after it. There'd be live shows from No Prayer for the Dying. I'd love to hear even a small collection of Blaze live tracks that they haven't released. They certainly have room and the ability to do a second one of these. That live show from Donington 2007 that they never released. That live show you have on bootleg from the broadcast from A Matter of Life and Death from Sweden. Yeah, there is so much stuff. Donington 2014 that they filmed for a DVD and never released. Like there's so much in the vaults, and I would love to see some more of it.
Well, consider this. When this was released in 2002, Iron Maiden had 22 years worth of a discography. Now it is 2025, and they have an additional 23 years behind them. So the maths out. I'd like to see a volume 2 as well. Maybe even something complimentary in terms of appearance, but we can't get our wishes too high.
Yeah, what's the 50th anniversary Jubilee color metal? Is it platinum, diamond? They couldn't do a diamond box set, no.
Well, we could hope and dream and wish. Instead, we get two little jewels of eyes inside an Eddie's shot glass. Well, Harrison, I think that about wraps it up for Eddie's Archive and also Edward the Great. Not something that you need, but something that you really do want to get your hands on. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of 50 Years of Iron Maiden. We will be back with more Maiden, but first, next week, we have a very special look at Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, with special guests Uncle Meat and Dan Chartrand. And then the week after that is Halloween, and we will be doing a special costume episode with Mr. Robert Daniels and Johnny Metal. So we will be seeing you for 50 years after Iron Maiden after a short break. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching, and up the irons.